Howdy, y'all. Swan Marion, the bookworm cowboy here. Here to read from Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Yeah. Chapter 6. Draco's Detour. Shit. Got stuff in my nose. Harry remained within the confines of the Burrow's garden over the next few weeks. He spent most of his days playing two-a-side Quidditch in the Weasley's orchard. He and Hermione against Ron and Ginny. Hermione was dreadful and Ginny good, so they were reasonably well matched. And his evenings, eating triple helpings of everything Mrs. Weasley put in front of him. It would have been a happy, peaceful hobby had it not been for the stories of disappearances, odd accidents, even of deaths now appearing almost daily in the Prophet. Sometimes Bill and Mr. Weasley brought home news before it even reached the paper. To Mrs. Weasley's displeasure, Harry's 16th birthday celebrations were marred by grisly tidings brought to the party by Remus Lupin, who was looking gaunt and grim. His brown hair streaked liberally with gray, his clothes more ragged and patched than ever. There have been another couple of Dementor attacks, he announced as Mrs. Weasley passed him a large slice of birthday cake. And they found Igor Karakov's body in a shack up north. Lockmark had been set over it. Well, frankly, I'm surprised he stayed alive for even a year after deserting the Death Eater. Sirius brother Regulus only managed a few days as far as I can remember. Yes, well, said Mrs. Weasley, frowning. Perhaps we should talk about something different. Did you hear about Florian Fortescue's Remus? Asked Bill, who was being plied with wine by Fleur. Nana ran the ice cream place in Diagon Alley. Harry interrupted with an unpleasant hollow sensation in the pit of his stomach. He used to give me free ice creams. What happened to him? Dragged off, by the look of his place. Why? Asked Ron while Mrs. Weasley pointedly glared at Bill. Who knows? He must have accepted him somehow. He was a good man, Florian. Talking of Diagon Alley, looks like Ollivander's gone too. A wand maker? Said Ginny, looking startled. That's the one. Shop's empty. No sign of a struggle. No one knows whether he left voluntarily or was kidnapped. But wands. What do people do for wands? They'll make do with other makers, said Lupin. But Ollivander was the best. And if the other side have got him, it's not so good for us. The day after the rather gloomy birthday their letters and booklets arrived from Hogwarts. Harry's included a surprise. He had been made Quidditch captain. That gives you equal status with the prefects, cried Hermione happily. You can use all the special bathroom now and everything. Wow, I remember when Charlie wore one of those, said Ron, examining the badge with glee. Harry, this is so cool. You're my captain. If you let me back on the team, I suppose. Well, I don't suppose we could put off a trip to Dagon much longer now that you got these. Sighed Mrs. Weasley, looking down Ron's book list. We'll go on Saturday. As long as your father doesn't have to going to work again, I'm not going there without him. Mum, you honestly think you know who's going to be hiding behind the bookshelf and floors and plots? Sniggered Ron. Well, Tessie and Vanna went on holiday, did they? Said Mrs. Weasley, frowning up at once. You think security's a laughing man? You can stay behind and I'll get your things myself. No, I want to come. I want to see your friend George's shop, said Ron hastily. You just buck up your ideas, young man, before I decide you're too immature to come with us, said Mrs. Weasley, angrily snatching up her clock that all 9 hands were still pointing at mortal peril, and balancing it on the top of the pile of just laundered towels. And that goes for returning to Hogwarts as well. Ron turned to stare incredulously at Harry and at his mother hoisted the laundry basket and the teetering cart into her arms and stormed out of the room. Blimey, can't even make a joke around here anymore. Ron was careful not to be flippant about Voldemort over the last few days. Saturday dawned without any more outbursts from Mrs. Weasley, though she seemed very tense at breakfast. Bill, who would be staying at home with Fleur, much to Hermione and Ginny's pleasure, passed a full money bag across the table to Harry. Where's mine? Demanded Ron as his eyes widened. That's already Harry's, idiot, said Bill. Thought it all your fault for you, Harry, because it's taking about 5 hours for the public to get their gold at the moment. But Thomas are talking security so much. 2 days ago, Philpott had a probity probe stuck up his. Well, trust me, this way is easier. Thanks, Bill, said Harry, pocketing his gold. He was always so thoughtful. Purred Fleur, adoringly stroking Bill's nose. Ginny mind vomiting into her cereal behind Fleur. Harry choked over his cornflakes and Ron thumped him on the back. It was an overcast, murky day. On the special secret Ministry of Magic's cars, in which Harry had ridden once before, was awaiting them in the front yard when they emerged from the house, pulling on their cloaks. It's good, Dad can get us these again, said Ron appreciatively, stretching luxuriously as the car moved smoothly away from the burrow. Bill and Fleur waving from the kitchen window. He, Harry, Hermione, and Ginny were all sitting in roomy comfort in the wide back seat. Don't get used to it. It's only because of Harry, said Mr. Weasley over his shoulder. He and Mrs. Weasley were in front of the ministry driver. The front passenger seat had obligated to stretch into what resembled a two-seater sofa. He's been getting top grade security status, and we'll be joining up with additional security at the Leaky Cauldron too. Harry said nothing. He did not much fancy doing his shopping while surrounded by a battalion of horrors. He had stowed his invisibility cloak in his backpack and felt that if that was good enough for Dumbledore, it would be good enough for the Ministry. But now he came to think of it, he was not sure the Ministry knew about his cloak. Here, y'all then, said the driver a surprising short while later, speaking for the first time as he slowed and charmed across the road and stopped outside the leaky cauldron. I'm to wait for you. Any idea how long you'll be? A couple hours, I expect, said Mr. Weasley. Oh, good. He's here. Harry imitated Mr. Weasley and peered through the window. His heart leapt. There were no Aurors waiting outside the inn, but instead, the gigantic black-bearded form of Rubeus Hagrid, the Hogwarts gamekeeper, wearing a long beaver-skin coat, beaming at the sight of Harry's face and oblivious to the startled stares of passing muggles. Harry! He boomed, sweeping Harry into a bone-crushing hug the moment Harry had stepped out of the car. Buckbeak, Witherwings, yeah, this is him, Harry. He's so happy to be back in the open air. Gladly pleased, said Harry, grinning as he massaged his ribs. You know security meant you. I know, just like old times in it. See, the Ministry wanted to send a bunch of Aurors, but Dumbledore said I'd do it. Said Harry, Hagrid, proudly throwing out his chest and tucking his thumbs into his pockets. Let's get going then. After you, Molly, Arthur. The leaky cauldron was, for the first time in Harry's memory, completely empty. Only Tom, the landlord, wizened and toothless, remained of the old crowd. He looked hopefully as they entered, but before he could speak, Hagrid said importantly, "Just passing through today, Tom. Sure you understand Hogwarts business, you know." Tom nodded gloomily and returned to wiping glasses. Harry, Hermione, Hagrid, and the Weasleys walked through the barn out into the chilly little courtyard at the back where the dustbins stood. Hagrid raised his pink umbrella and rapped a certain brick in the wall, which opened at once to form an archway into a winding cobbled street. They stepped through the entrance and paused and looked around. Diagon Alley had changed. The colorful, glittering windows, displays of spell books, potion ingredients, and cauldrons were lost to view. Hidden behind the large Ministry of Magic posters that had been pasted over them. Most of these somber purple posters carried blown-up versions of the security advice of the Ministry pamphlets that had been sent out over the summer. Others bore moving black and white photographs of Death Eaters known to be on the loose. Bellatrix Lestrange was steering from the front of the nearest apothecary. A few windows were boarded up, including those of Florian Fortescue's ice cream parlor. On the other hand, a number of shabby-looking stalls had sprung up along the streets. The nearest one, which had been erected outside fluorescent blocks under a stripe-stained awning, had a cardboard sign pinned to its front. Amulets, effective against werewolves, dementors, and inferi. A seedy-looking wizard was rattling armfuls of silver symbols on chains at passerbys. "One of your little girl, Adam," he called at Mrs. Weasley as he passed nearing at Ginny. "Protective neck." "If I were on duty," said Mr. Weasley, staring angrily at the amulet seller. "Yes, but don't go arresting anyone now, dear. We're in a hurry," said Mrs. Weasley, nervously consulting a list. "I think we'd better do Malkin's first. Hermione wants new dress robes, and Ron's showing much too much ankle in his school robes. And you must be new ones too, Harry. You've grown so much. Come on, everyone." "Molly, It doesn't make sense for all of us to go to Madame Malkin's. Said, why don't these three go to with Hagrid and we can go to Flourish and Blotts to get everyone's school books? I don't know, said Mrs. Weasley anxiously, very torn between the desire to finish shopping quick ends with wish to stick together in a pack. Hagrid, do you think? Don't fret, they'll be fine with me, Molly, said Hagrid soothingly, waving the airy hand at the size of a dustpan lid. Mrs. Weasley did not look entirely convinced, but allowed the separation, scurrying off toward Flourish and Blotts with her husband and Ginny, while Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Hagrid went off to Madame Malkin's. Harry noticed that many of the people who passed him had the same harried, anxious look as Mrs. Weasley, and that nobody was stopping to talk anymore. Stoppers stayed together in their own tightly knit groups, moving intently about their business. Nobody seemed to be shopping alone. Might be a bit of squeezing not in there with all of us, said Hagrid, stopping outside Madame Malkin's and bending down to peer through the window. I'll stand guard outside, all right? So Harry, Ron, and Hermione entered the little shop together. It appeared at first glance to be empty. No sooner had the door swung shut behind him than they heard a familiar voice issuing from the rack of dress, robe spangled in green and blue. Not the child, in case you haven't noticed, Mother. I'm perfectly capable of doing my shopping alone. There was a clucking noise and the voice Harry recognized as that of Malkin, the owner. Oh dear, your mother's quite right. None of us is supposed to go wandering around on our own anymore. It's nothing to do with being a child. Watch where you stick to that pen, will you? Will you? A teenage boy with a pale, pointed face and white blonde hair appeared from behind the rack, wearing a handsome set of dark green robes, and that glittered with pins around the hem and each of the sleeves. He strode to the mirror, examining himself. It was a few moments before he noticed Harry, Ron, and Hermione reflected over his shoulders. His light gray eyes narrowed. You have only what that smell is, Mother. A mudbug just walked in, said Draco Malfoy. I don't think there's any need for language like that, said Malkin, screwing out from behind the clothes rack, holding a tape measure and a wand. And I don't want wands drawn in my shop either, she added hastily, or glanced up toward the door had shown her Harry, Ron both standing there with their wands out and pointing at Malfoy. Hermione, who was standing slightly behind him, whispered, don't be so with it. Yeah, like you did do magic out of school, sneered Malfoy. You blacked your eye, Granger. I want to send them flowers. That's quite enough, said Malkin sharply, looking over her shoulder for support. Madam, please. Miss Narcissa Malfoy strolled out from behind the clothes rack. Put those away, she said coldly to Ron and Harry. If you attack my son again, I shall ensure that is the last thing you'll ever do. Really? Said Harry. Said Harry, taking a step forward and gazing into the smoothly arrogant face. For all its pallor still resembled her sister's. He was as tall as she was now. Going to get a few Death Eater pals to do us in, are you? Madam Malkin squealed and touched her heart. Really, you shouldn't kill dangerous things as that. Walk away, please. But Harry did not lower his wand. Narcissus Malfoy smiled unpleasantly. I see that being Dumbledore's favorite has given you a false sense of security, Harry Potter. Dumbledore won't always be there to protect you. Harry looked mockingly all around the shop. Wow, look at that. He's not here now, so why not have a go? Yeah, they might be able to find you a double cell in Azkaban with your loser of a husband. Harry looked. Malfoy made an angry movement toward Harry, but stumbled over his overlong robe. Ron laughed loudly. Don't you dare talk to my mother like that, Potter! Malfoy snarled. It's all right, Draco, said Narcissa, restraining him with her thin white fingers upon his shoulders. I expect Potter will be reunited with Sirius before I am reunited with Lucius. Harry raised his long wand higher. Harry, no! Moaned Hermione. Hermione grabbing his arm and intending to push it down his side. Think you mustn't. You'll be in such trouble. Now Malkin dithered for a moment on the spot. They then seemed to decide to act as though nothing was happening in the hopes that it wouldn't. She bent towards Malfoy, who was still glaring at Harry. I think this left sleeve could come a bit more, dear. Let me just out! Said Malfoy, slapping her hand away. Watch where you're putting your pins, woman. Mother, I don't think I want these anymore. He pulled the robes over his head and threw them onto the floor and Madame Malcolm's feet. You're right, Draco, said Narcissa, with a clear to his glass at Hermione. Now I know the kind of scum that shops here. We'll do better at Twiffet or tattings. Twiffet and tattings. And with that, the pair of them strode out of the shop. Malcolm taking care of to hang out, to bang as hard as he could into Ron on the way out. Well, really, said Madame Malkin, snatching up the fallen robes and moving the tip of her wand over them like a vacuum cleaner so that it moved all the dust. She was distracted all through the fitting of Ron and Hermione's new robes. Tried to sell Hermione's dress robes instead of wizard's dress robes. And when she finally bowed them out of the shop, it was with an air of being glad to see the back of them. For everything? Asked Hagrid brightly when they reappeared at his side. Just about, said Harry. You see the Malfoys? Yeah, said Hagrid, unconcerned. They wouldn't dare make trouble in the middle of Diagon Alley. Don't worry about them. Harry, Ron, and Hermione exchanged looks, but before they could disabuse Hagrid of this comfortable notion, Mr. and Mrs. Weasley and Ginny appeared, all clutching heavy packages of books. Everyone all right? Said Mrs. Weasley. Got your robes? Right then. You can pop in at the apothecary and the Aesops. On the way to Fred and George's. Too close now. Neither Ron or Harry bought any ingredients at the apothecary, seeing as they were no longer studying potions. They both bought a large bottle of owl nuts for Hedwig and Pigwidgeon at Eop's Owl Emporium. Then, with Mrs. Weasley checking her watch every minute or so, they headed farther along the streets in search of Weasley Wizard Wheezes, the joke shop run by Fred and George. You really haven't got too long, Mrs. Weasley said. So we'll just have a quick look around and then back to the car. Must be closed. That's number 92, 94. Whoa! said Ron, stopping in his tracks. Set against the dull poster-muffled shop fronts around him. Fred and George's windows hit the eye like a fireworks display. Hang on a minute. I gotta go eat something. I'll be back. I'm back. Casual passers-by were looking back over their shoulders at the windows. A few rather stunned-looking people had actually come to a halt, transfixed. The left-hand window was dazzling, full of assortments of goods that revolved, popped, flashed, bounced, and shrieked. Harry's eyes began to water just looking at it. The right-hand window was covered with a gigantic poster, purple like those of the ministries, but emblazoned with flashing yellow letters. Why should you be worrying about you-know-who? You should be worrying about you-know-poo. The conservation sensation that's gripping the nation. Harry started to laugh. He heard a weak sort of moan beside him and looked around to see Mrs. Weasley gazing dumbfounded at the poster. Her lips moved silently, mouthing the words, "You-know-poo." She whispered. "No, they won't," said Ron, who, like Harry, was laughing. "This is brilliant!" And he and Harry led the way into the joke shop. It was packed with customers. Harry could not get near the shelves. He stared around, looking at the boxes piled to the ceiling. Here were the skimming snack boxes that the twins had perfected during their last unfinished year at Hogwarts. Harry noticed that the nosebleed nougat was most popular, and one battered box left. With only one battered box left on the shelf. There were bins full of trick wands, the cheapest merely turning into rubber chickens or pairs of briefs when waved. The most expensive bathing underwear used around the head and neck with boxes of quills, which came in self-inking, spell-checking, and smart answer varieties. A space cleared in the crowd, and Harry pushed his way toward the counter, where a gaggle of delighted 10-year-olds was watching a tiny little wooden man. One man slowly ascending the steps to a real set of gallows, both perched on a box that said, "Reusable Hangman. Spell it or he'll swing." Patented and daydream charms. And Hermione had managed to squeeze through to a large display near the counter, and was reading the information on the back of a box bearing a highly colored picture of a handsome youth and a swooning girl who were standing on the deck of a pirate ship. One simple incantation, you will enter a top quality, highly realistic 30-minute daydream, easy to fit into your average school lesson, and visually undetectable. Side effects include vague expressions and minor drooling. Not for sale to under 16, said Hermione, looking up at Harry. That really is extraordinary magic. For that, Hermione, said a voice behind them, you can have one for free. A beaming Fred stood before them, wearing a set of magenta robes that clashed magnificently with his flaming hair. How are you, Harry? They shook hands. What's happened to your eye, Hermione? Your punching telescope, she said ruefully. Oh, blimey, I forgot about those. Here, said Fran. He pulled the tub out of his pocket and handed it to her. But, yeah, unscrewed it essentially and revealed a yellow paste. Just dab it on, that bruise will be gone within the hour, said Fred. We had to find a decent bruise remover. We're testing most of our products on ourselves. It is safe, isn't it? Hermione looked nervous. She asked. Of course it is, said Fred bracingly. Come on, Harry, I'll give you a tour. Harry laughed, Hermione dabbing her black eye with paste and followed Fred toward the back of the shop. And he saw a stand of card and rope tricks. Muggle magic tricks. Said Fred happily pointing them out. For freaks like that, you know, who love Muggle stuff, not a big in it, but we do fairly steady business. They're great novelties. Oh, here's George. Fred's twin shook Harry's head and interjected. Giving him a tour? Come through the back. Harry, that's where we're making the real money. Pocket anything you and you'll pay in more than galleons. He added warningly to a small boy who hastily whipped his hand out of a tub labeled edible dark marks don't make anyone sick. George pushed back a curtain of muzzled tricks, and Harry saw a darker, less crowded room. The packaging on the products lining with these shelves were more subdued. He dusted up the more serious line, said Fred. Funny how it happened. You wouldn't believe how many people who work at the ministry can't do a decent shield charm, said George. Of course, they didn't have you teaching them, Harry. That's right. Well, we thought shield hats were a bit of a laugh, you know. Challenging a mate to jinx you while wearing it and watch his face when the jinx bounces off. But the ministry brought 500 for all of its support staff. We're still getting massive orders. So we've expanded into the range of shield cloaks, shield gloves. I mean, they wouldn't help much against the unforgivable curses, but for minor to moderate hexes or jinxes. And then we thought we could get into the whole area of defense against the dark arts, because it's such a money spinner, continued George enthusiastically. This is cool. Look, instant darkness powder. Reporting it from Peru. Handy if you want to make a quick escape. And our decoy detonators are just walking off the shelves. Look, said Fred, pointing at a number of weird-looking black horn-type objects that were attempting to scurry out of sight. You just drop one surreptitiously and it'll run off and make a light and sound noise out of sight, give you a diversion if you need one. Handy. Handy, said Harry, impressed. Here, said George, catching a couple and throwing them to Harry. The young witch with short blonde hair poked her head out around the curtain. Harry saw that she too was wearing magenta staff robes. There's a customer out there looking for a Joe Cauldron, Mr. Weasley and Mr. Weasley, she said. Harry found it very odd to hear Fred and George called Mr. Weasley's, but they took it in their strength. Right you are, Verity. Here, I'm coming, said George promptly. Harry, help yourself to anything you want, alright? No charge. I can't do that. Said Harry was already pulled out his money bag to pay for the decoy that you don't pay here, said Fred firmly. Yeah. Waving away Harry's still. But you gave us our style plan. We haven't forgotten, said George Stern. Take whatever you like, and remember, just tell people where you got it if they ask. Just people where you got it if they ask. Take whatever you like, and just remember to tell people where you got it if they ask. Sorry. George swept off through the curtain to help with the customers, and Fred led Harry back into the main part of the shop to find Hermione and Ginny still poring over the patented daydream charms. Haven't you girls found our special Wonder Witch products yet? Asked Fred. Follow me, ladies. Near the window, there was an array of violently pink products around which a cluster of excited girls was giggling enthusiastically. Hermione and Ginny both hung back, working warily. There you go, said Fred proudly. Best range of love potions you'll find anywhere. Ginny raised an eyebrow skeptically. Can't raise my eyebrows. Do they work? She asked. Certainly they work. For up to 24 hours at a time, depending on the weight of the boy in question. And the attractiveness of the girl, said George, reappearing suddenly at their side. We're not selling them to our sister. He said, he added, becoming suddenly stern. Not when she's already got about 5 boys on the go from what we. Whatever you heard from one is a big fat lie, said Ginny calmly, leaning forward to take a small pink pot off the shelf. What's this? Guaranteed 10-second pimple vanisher. Exit on everything from boils to blackheads, but don't change the subject. Are you not currently going out with a boy called Dean Thomas? Yes, I am, said Ginny. And last time I looked, he was definitely 1 boy, not 5. What are those? She was pointing at a number of small round balls of puff in the shades of pink and purple, all rolling around the bottom of a cage, making high-pitched squeaks. Pygmy puffs, said George. Miniature puff beans. We can't breed them fast enough. What about Michael Corner? I dumped him. He was a bad loser, said Ginny, putting a finger through the bars of the cage and watching the pygmy puffs crowd around it. They're really cute. They're fairly cuddly, yes, conceded Fred, but you're moving through boyfriends a bit fast, aren't you? Ginny turned to look at him, her hand on her hips. There was such a Mrs. Weasley glare on her face that Derry was surprised Fred didn't recoil. It's none of your business, and I'll thank you, she added angrily to Ron, who had just appeared at George's elbow, laden with merchandise, not to tell tales about me to those two. That 3 gallons, 9 sickles, and a canute, said Fred, examining the many boxes in Ron's arms. Cough up. I'm your brother, and that's our stuff you're nicking. 3 gallons, 9 sickles, I'll knock off the canute. I ain't got 3 gallons, 9 sickles. They're better than back then. Remind you to put it on the right shelves. Ron dropped up several boxes. Swan made a rude hand gesture at Fred. And that was unfortunately spotted by Mrs. Weasley, who had chosen that moment to reappear. If I say you do that again, I'll take your fingers together, she said sharply. Mom, can I bring that up, baby? Said Ginny at once. A what? Said Mrs. Weasley warily. They're so sweet. Mrs. Weasley moved aside to look at the pygmy puffs. and Harry, Ron, and Hermione momentarily had an unimpeded view out of the window. Draco Malfoy was hurrying up the street alone. As he passed Weasley's wizard wheezes, he glanced over his shoulder. Seconds later, he moved beyond the scope of the window and they lost sight of him. "Wonder where his mummy is," said Harry, frowning. "You know the slip by the looks of it." "Why, though?" said Hermione. Harry said nothing. He was thinking too hard. Narcissa Malfoy would not have let their precious son go out of her sight willingly. Malfoy must have made a real effort to free himself from her clutches. Harry, knowing and loathing Malfoy, was sure the reason could not be innocent. He glanced around. Mrs. Weasley and Ginny were bending over the pygmy puffs. Mr. Weasley was delightedly examining a pack of Muggle-marked playing cards. Finn and George were both helping customers. On the other side of the glass, Hagrid was standing up with his back to them, looking up and down the street. "Get under here, quick," said Harry, pulling his invisibility cloak out of his bag. "Oh, I don't know, Harry," said Hermione, looking uncertainly toward Mrs. Weasley. "Come on," said Ron. He hesitated for a second longer, then ducked under the cloak with Harry and Ron. Nobody noticed them vanish. They were all too interested in Fred and George's products. Harry, Ron, and Hermione squeezed their way out of the door as quickly as they could. But by the time they gained the street, Malfoy had disappeared just as successfully as they had. "He was going in that direction," murmured Harry as quietly as possible, so that the humming Hagrid would not hear them. "Come on." They scurried along, peering left and right through shop windows and doors, until Hermione pointed ahead. "That's him, isn't it? Turning left?" "Big surprise," whispered Ron. Or Malfoy had glanced around, then fled to Nocturne Alley and out of sight. "Quick, or we'll lose him," said Harry, speeding up. "I feel be seen," said Hermione anxiously as the cloak flapped around their ankles. It was much more difficult hiding all three of them under the cloak nowadays. "Doesn't matter, just hurry," said Harry impatiently. But Nocturne Alley, the side street devoted to the dark arts, looked completely deserted. They peered into windows as they passed, but none of the shops seemed to have any customers at all. Harry supposed it was a bit of a giveaway in these dark and suspicious times to buy dark artifacts, or at least to be seen buying them. Hermione gave his arm a hard pinch. "Ouch! Look, he's in there," she breathed in Harry's ear. He had drawn level with the only shop in Nocturne Alley that Harry had ever visited, Morgan and Burke's. They sold a wide variety of sinister objects. There in the midst of the cases full of skulls and old bottles stood Draco Malfoy with his back to them, just visible beyond the very same large black cabinet in which Harry had once hidden to avoid Malfoy and his father. Judging by the movements of Malfoy's hands, he was talking animatedly. The proprietor of the shop, Mr. Borgin, an oily-haired, stooping man, stood facing Malfoy. He was wearing a curious expression of mingled resentment and fear. "If only we could hear what they're saying," said Hermione. "We can," said Ron excitedly. "Hang on, down." He dropped a couple more of the boxes he was still touching as he fumbled with the largest. "Extendable ears. Look, fantastic," said Hermione as Ron unraveled the long flesh-colored strings and began to feed them toward the bottom of the door. "I hope the door is impenetrable," Bubble. Imperturbable. No, said Ron gleefully. Listen. They put their heads together and listened intently to the ends of the strings, through which Malfoy's voice could be heard loud and clear as though a radio had been turned on. You know how to fix it? Possibly, said Borgin in a tone that suggested that he was unwilling to commit himself. I'll need to see it, though. Why don't you bring it into the shop? I can't, said Malfoy. It's got to stay put. It just need to know how to tell me how to do it. Harry saw Morgan lick his lips nervously. Well, without seeing it, I must say it will be a very difficult job, perhaps impossible. I couldn't guarantee anything. No, said Malfoy. Harry knew just by his tone that Malfoy was sneering. Perhaps this will make you more confident. He moved toward Borgin and was blocked from view by the cabinet. Harry, Ron, and Hermione shuffled sideways to try and keep him out of sight. But all they could see was Borgin looking very frightened. Tell anyone, said Malfoy, and there will be retribution. You know Fenrir Greyback. He's a family friend. He'll be dropping in from time to time to make sure you're giving the problem your full attention. There was no need for... I'll decide that, said Malfoy. And I'd better be off. And don't forget to... Don't forget to keep that one safe. I'll need it. Perhaps you'd like to take it now? No, of course I wouldn't, you stupid little man. How would I look carrying that down the street? Just don't sell it. Of course not, sir. Morgan made a bow as deep as the one Harry had seen him give Lucius Malfoy. Not a word to anyone, Morgan. That includes my mother, understand? Naturally, murmured Morgan, bowing again. Next moment, the bell over the door tinkled loudly as Malfoy stalked out of the shop, looking very pleased with himself. He passed so close to Ron and Hermione, Harry, Ron, and Hermione that they felt the cloak flutter around their knees again. Inside the shop, Borgin remained frozen. His unconscious smile had vanished. He looked worried. What was that about? Whispered Ron, with reeling in his extendable ears. Dunno, said Harry, thinking hard. He wants something mended. He wants to reserve something in there. You could see he was pointing what he was pointing at when he said that one. No, he was behind that cabinet. You two stay there, whispered Hermione. While you... But Hermione had already ducked out from under the invisibility cloak. She checked her hair in the reflection of the glass, then marched into the shop, setting the bell tinkling again. Ron hastily fed the extendable ears back under the door and passed one of the strings to Harry. Hello. Horrible morning, isn't it? Said Hermione brightly to Borgin, who did not answer but cast a suspicious look. Humming cheerfully, Hermione strolled through the jumble of objects on display. Is this necklace for sale? She said, pulling out a glass from the case. If you got 1,500 galleons, said Mr. Borgin coldly. Oh, no, I haven't got quite that much, said Hermione, walking on. And what about this lovely, skull? 16 galleons? 16 galleons. It's for sale then. Isn't that being kept for anyone? Mr. Borgin squinted at her. Harry had a nasty feeling he knew exactly what Hermione was up to. Apparently, Hermione felt that she had been rubbled to because she suddenly threw caution to the winds. Thing is, that boy who was so near just now, Draco Malfoy, well, he's a friend of mine, and I want to give him a birthday present, but he's already reserved. But he's already reserved anything. I don't want to get him in the same thing. So there's a plenty of rain story in Harry's been, but plenty of thoughts all through. Out, he said sharply. Get out. Hermione did not wait to be asked twice, but hurried to the door with Borgin at her heels. As the bell tinkled again, Borgin slammed the door behind her and put up the closed sign. Ah, well, said Ron, throwing the cloak back over Hermione. Worth a try, but you were a bit obvious. Well, next time you can show me how it's done, Master of Mystery, she snapped. Ron and Hermione bickered all the way back to Weasley's Wizard Wheezes, where they were forced to stop so that they could dodge undetectably around a very anxious-looking Mrs. Weasley and Hagrid, who had clearly noticed their absence. Once in the shop, Harry whipped off the invisibility cloak, hid it in his bag, and joined in with the others too when they insisted, in answer to Mrs. Weasley's accusations that they were in the back room all along and that she could not have looked properly. Here ends this chapter.